This is one of the most complicated games and this is the shortest possible tutorial. To start the game you'll need to choose the game mode or the league. Here you can choose between the standard, which is permanent, or temporal leagues, which can last from several days to a few months. When the league starts, everyone begins from zero, and the good thing is a fresh economy with many items being sold for less currency. The other benefits are new mechanics and items. All new leagues bring something new, so that's where most of the players are. When the league ends, all characters and items are transferred to standard. On the other hand, the standard can be a good place if you want to play a few hours a week and don't want to create a new character every few months. In terms of items, there is a ton on the standard, but the best ones are extremely pricey because everyone has a lot of currency from all the leagues they play. The next options we have here are Hardcore, Solo Self-Found and Ruthless. Hardcore means that you play on a server when you die, the character gets transferred to the standard league, so the fear of that is real. Solo Self-Found is a mode that limits all your interactions with other players, so you can't trade with them. And Ruthless is a mode where the item drop rates are very low. If you're a new player, I recommend playing either on standard or the league, without any other modes. When choosing a class in Path of Exile, be aware that playstyle is tied to the skill you will use, not the class itself. This means that every class can play almost any build, but some classes will be better suited for certain builds due to their specific bonuses. For example, the skill Ice Shot is an arrow skill that can be played with any class, but the Ranger will obviously be the best choice because of its specific bonuses. For new players, I recommend exploring the game and trying out whatever you want. After you complete the first 5 acts and get a feel for the game, go and search for the build you want to play. It's important to note that some builds are beginner friendly and inexpensive, while others are complex and very expensive. And when I say expensive, I mean you will never afford them. The variety of builds is vast and there are many options to choose from. Initially, search for builds that have terms like cheap, league starter, solo self-found or beginner friendly in their name. This is because some builds are very gear dependent and may require very good or expensive items to function properly or at all. Builds can be found on various websites and some are well explained. Just make sure to read everything because reading is crucial in this game. Many players also use a specific program called Path of Building to create or track a build. Usually, every build guide will have a link for it. You just copy the link to this program and it will import the passive tree and every item or skill that you need. The in-game DPS tooltip doesn't work for some skills, as it only calculates the main hit, while some builds are based on damage over time, area of effect, and other complex mechanics. This can also be a helpful way to see the impact of changing something in the build. Many players also use it to test something new before playing it because respeccing a build in this game can be very expensive. Sometimes it's easier to level up a new character than to respec the one you're currently playing. When I first began playing the game, I've experimented with creating several archers using different skills. Now let's delve into more complex aspects of this game, such as this monstrosity of passive skill tree. The first thing to know is that different classes start at different locations on the skill tree. The classes include the Ranger, Duelist, Marauder, Templar, Witch, Shadow and the Scion, who is the only class that needs to be unlocked by finding her in the game. With each level you get 1 skill point and a few are given by quests. These skill points can be allocated to any connected node on the skill tree. These small nodes give you basic attributes such as strength, intelligence or dexterity. They can also give you health, damage, critical strikes or similar. Next we have these bigger notables which will give you the same things like the smaller ones, just more. As example, we can see that these notable give us more health than these smaller ones. And these notable give us 3 times more than the smaller ones. Next, we have the largest nodes that are called keystones. They are powerful and important for builds because they can alter the game mechanics. For example, this keystone reduces your life to 1 but grants you immunity to chaos damage. There are also ascendancy subclasses in the Path of Exile, which are specific to each class and function as smaller passive traits. Each class can choose one from the 3 different, except for the Scion, which has only one ascendancy class available. Now, if you're wondering how to respec your character, you can do so by using Orbs of Regret. Each node you want to respec requires one Orb of Regret, and now you understand why respecing can be expensive. Skill gems, as mentioned earlier, can be used by any class. They are divided by color and type. There are 2 types of gems, skill gems and support gems. Skill gems represent the actual skill you use, such as different types of arrows, sparks, projectiles, melee skills, totems, summoning, and more. Support gems, on the other hand, can be linked with skills to enhance their functionality. They can increase damage, fire multiple projectiles, expand the area of effect, provide life or mana leech, boost critical damage or chance, and offer many other effects. Let me show you an example. This is the Ice Shot. If I link it with a greater multiple projectiles, it will fire 4 additional projectiles. But if I link it with a barrage support, it will shoot in a burst. I can also link it with an added lightning damage and increase critical strike if I want that. There are many gems in the game and combinations are limitless. To make sure that the gems are working together, you can check the letters on the skill picture, down here. Whenever I link some gems, the letters will indicate that. Speaking of skill gems, they can be further divided as attack skill gems and spell skill gems. Attack gems deal damage based on your weapon's damage, which is calculated by percentage. On the other hand, spell gems have a base damage and are not that gear dependent. By the color, gems can be red, green, or blue, representing the attributes associated with them and their requirements. To socket a gem into a piece of gear, you need a socket of the same color. The only exceptions are these white sockets, in which you can put any gem. Sockets are linked if they have this line connecting them. The maximum number is 6 for the chest and 2-handed weapons, 3 for the one-handed weapons, and 4 for other equipment. If you want to view more detailed statistics about any skills you made, open the character tab and find it on the list here. Here we can also see the attributes. They are gained from the passive skill tree and gear. Every 2 strength gives you +1 life and every 5 strength give you 1% melee physical damage. Intelligence gives you mana and energy shield, while dexterity gives you accuracy and evasion. This is the same for any class. The attributes are also required by some gems and some gear. The gear in this game is really complicated. Everything is random, but there are some rules. The process of crafting gear can be really expensive and fun for some people. Items can be white, blue, rare, or unique. The main difference lies in the number of modes they provide. In many other games, 2 items with the same name will be same, but this is not the case in Path of Exile. Here, 2 items with the same name can be completely different. The name itself holds no importance. What truly matters are mods. Each item can have an affix, typically associated with the base item type, and it can also feature 3 different prefixes and 3 different suffixes randomly selected from a pool. You can Google the full list if you want to see them all. The only exception to these rules are unique items, which are always the same and can have some very unique mods. Speaking of mods, they can also be at different tiers. So this strength mod can give you more or less strength depending on its tier. All this makes good items very rare and expensive. Now let's talk about currency and crafting. In many games the gold is the main currency, but not in the Path of Exile. Here we have many different currencies, each with its own specific purpose. Scroll of Wisdom is used to identify the items you pick up from the ground. Portal scrolls are used to create portals back to town. Blacksmith's whetstones improves the quality of a weapon, while Armorer's Scarab improves the armor on gear. Glassblower's bauble increases duration of Flasks. Gem Cutter's Prism improves the quality of gems, but I will show you how to use it later. Orb of Transmutation upgrades a white item to a blue. Alteration randomizes the mods on a blue item. Orb of Trance is self-explanatory. Regal Orb upgrades a blue item to a rare item. Alchemy upgrades a white item to a rare item. Chaos randomizes the mods on rare item. Javeler's Orbs changes the number of sockets on an item and you can just spam it until you hit the maximum number of sockets. Fusings are used for linking sockets. They can be spammed for linking a 5 sockets on a 5 socket item or linking a 6 link on a 6 socket item. Once the maximum number of sockets or links is reached, spamming will stop. Be aware that this is not the case for 4 socket items. They will relink, even if you already had 4 links. It's also worth mentioning that linking 6 sockets can be very expensive. Chromatic orbs are used to change the color of sockets. Every item has base attribute requirements which are tied to the color of sockets. This particular item has both strength and intelligence requirements, indicating a high chance of obtaining red or blue sockets. Orb of Scourging is used to turn an item white, so it can be crafted again. The Vaal Orb is a bit tricky. It can either add some specific mods to an item, turn sockets white, or randomize all mods. As a new player you shouldn't use them on gear, but only on gems. There are 2 ways to use them. First, on low level gems to make Vaal gem variants that use souls from killed mobs instead of mana. Second, on level 20 gems to either increase their level or quality. When a gem reaches level 20, sell it to a vendor along with 1 Gem Cutter's Prism. The vendor will return you the same gem at level 1 with 20 quality. This is a cheap way to get gems with 20 quality. Now level up the gem again until it reaches level 20 with 20 quality, and then use the Vaal Orb. It will have a chance to become a level 21, gain 23 quality, become a Vaal variant, or become a lower level or lower quality gem. Be aware that any corrupted item can't be modified again. In Path of Exile, items also have an item level, which determines the possible mods that can roll on them. The higher the level, the better mods and higher tiers an item can get. Also, there are many websites dedicated to crafting and calculations. One important thing that many new players don't understand is difference between global and local damage. Local damage only affects the weapon. As an example, this bow has 180% increased physical damage, and it only increased this number here. You can also see that adds 25 to 50 fire damage is written here as an elemental damage, which means they are the same thing. Now the damage of an attack skill is calculated with these numbers here, but if you're using a spell skill, they will be completely ignored. The reason for this is because the attack skills use weapons to deal damage, but spells don't. The same goes for crit and attack speed. On the other hand, projectile speed and spell damage are always global, so they will affect everything. On the other gear, it's a little easier to understand because it's explicitly stated: damage to attacks, damage to spells, or global damage. When stacking the damage from passive tree or gear, you'll need to know that there is a difference between increase and more. For example, if you have a base 100 damage and increase it by 50%, and then increase it by another 50%, you will have 200 damage. However, if you have a base damage of 100, increase it by 50% and then add a 50% more, you will have 225 damage. This means that more is always better than increase. The amount of stuff that drops in the game is huge, and using the item filter is mandatory. I recommend using the never sink filter, especially in the late game because the number of items can easily fill out the whole screen. Also, it's worth mentioning that you should skip many items and even some currencies as your build gets better. The faster you kill, the less loot you should pick up. The reason for this is that the less time you spend picking up items, the more mobs you can kill, which equals a higher chance for better loot. Pricing items is also very difficult, but you can use the Awakened add-on to make things easy. Speaking of loot, the Path of Exile is a free game, but you should really consider buying stash tabs because they will make your life so much easier. The first two are currency and map stash tabs. You will have a lot of different maps and currencies, so they are very important. Unique tab can store any unique item in the game, and premium stash tab is needed if you want to trade with other players. These are the most important ones, but there are many more. You can also buy them at discount every few weeks. To make your life even more easier, do a right click on a tab name and select Affinities. Now you can just do Ctrl left click on items in your inventory and they will automatically go to designated stash tabs. Defenses. There are 4 core types of defenses: health, armor, evasion, and energy shield. Health is really simple and just the same as in any other game. You want higher number and better regeneration. Armor is a very good type of defense, but you should know that this in-game number is just an estimate and it's not real. The real calculation is much more complex. The evasion is very good and very bad at the same time. The simple reason for this are the hits that go through, and if you don't have any other layer of defense, you will eventually get one-shotted. It's also entropy based, so you will get hit no matter what. The energy shield is similar to health, but it recharges over time and recharging starts 2 seconds after being hit. It's also found in larger numbers on equipment compared to health, making it easier to get over 6000 energy shield. It's also worth mentioning that chaos damage goes through it. This can be prevented by taking a keystone. The other types of defenses are spell dodge, block, spell suppression, and ailments avoidance. Spell dodge is simply a chance to dodge a spell. Block is a chance to block enemy attacks using shield, dual-wielded weapons, or staff. There are 2 types, attack block and spell block. Spell suppression is a layer of defense that lower damage from spells. The ailments avoidance is simply a way to avoid being frozen, ignited, or something else. The 2 most important ones to worry about are freeze and bleed, and you can easily prevent them with immunity flasks. The mobs can also stun you, and if you have low health, you will need to take a keystone to prevent it. The resistances are very important in Path of Exile. You must have 75% resistance to fire, cold, and lightning damage, or you will constantly die. The only exception is the chaos resistance, because the chaos damage is not very common in the game. It's also worth mentioning that you will lose 60% of all resistances during the campaign, resulting in a base resistance of minus 60%. The flasks are also very important. They can regenerate your health and mana or provide you with any other defensive or offensive stats. You can also craft a mode that enables their automatic activation when certain conditions are met. After completing the campaign, you will start mapping. To do this, put a map in the map device, and it will open portals. There are many different maps in the game, and they can also be crafted. There are 16 tiers, and by playing them, you will explore this atlas. The higher tiers are more difficult and more rewarding. The game also have this atlas skill tree, and taking notes in it will modify your maps. There are many different mechanics in the game from previous expansions. You can allocate some nodes to increase their chance or block them completely. While mapping, you should prioritize speed, which means there is no need to locate and kill every mob. It's better to start a new map instead. Optimize your build for some specific thing and just farm it for more currency. In the game there is also a crafting bench that you can use to make sockets, change colors or craft items in a cheaper way. You can also force some things with it. Some recipes will be locked and you will have to play the game to unlock them. The crafting bench also enables you to change sockets on corrupted items. To buy items, you will need to use this site. Whisper the player, wait for the invite, go to his hideout and then trade. If you want to sell items, I already mentioned that you need to buy a premium stash tab, set it to public and then either price the items individually or set the same price for everything in the tab. If a lot of players start whispering to you, you probably set the price too low. The primary trading currencies are Divine and Chaos Orbs. A hideout is something like your home. It's a place where you can set the crafting bench, map device and invite NPCs. It's also very important because everything will be in the same place and you will save a lot of time. Vendor receipts are very helpful at the beginning. There are many, but I will only mention a few. You can sell 3 maps to get 1 map 1 tier higher. Sell multiple gems with combined quality over 40% to get 1 gem cutter's prism. Sell any item with linked red, green and blue sockets to get 1 chromatic orb. Sell any 6 sockets item to get 7 javeler's orbs. Sell a level 20 skill gem with game cutter's prism to get a 20 quality on it. Sell 3 same level flasks to get a larger one. Sell the Vaal set of rare items with item levels between level 60 and 74 to get 1 chaos orb. If the items are identified, you will get 2 chaos orbs. You can also exchange some currencies with vendors. If you ever wonder what the bandits are, it's the quest where you can choose to kill all 3 bandits for 2 passive skill points, or side with one of them to get some other bonuses. Dying in Path of Exile is very punishing, especially at high levels, because you will lose experience every time you die. To make your life easier, enable life bar, always show sockets, show monster resistance, enable dynamic cooling, enable dynamic resolution and any other options that you like. Many players play with the big map overlay, which you can toggle by pressing the tab key. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and I'll see you in the next one.